They said she wouldn't make it through the night. The words hung in the cold, sterile air of the small clinic as Sergeant Ryan Miller stepped through the sliding door, rain dripping from his jacket onto the linoleum floor. Outside, the storm raged, wind whipping against the windows, shaking the metal frames. But inside, time slowed to the rhythm of his heartbeat and the soft whimpers that reached him from a shadowed corner. A tiny German Shepherd puppy lay curled on a thin blanket, soaked to the skin, chest rising and falling with barely a whisper of breath. Its amber eyes flickered open, meeting Ryan's gaze with a mixture of fear, desperation, and an unspoken plea for safety. The scent of rain and antiseptic mixed in the air, sharp and almost electric, and Ryan knelt slowly, his gloved hands hovering over the small, shivering body, feeling the tremor of life beneath his palms. He whispered, "You're safe now, little one," letting the words hang in the air, steady and soothing, as though his voice alone could anchor her in the storm. The puppy trembled, pushing weakly against his chest, seeking warmth, a heartbeat, something constant in a world that had offered only cold and fear. Shadows of the room stretched across the floor, the flickering fluorescent light painting stripes over the puppy's matted fur, highlighting every shiver, every ragged breath. Ryan's eyes scanned the small space, noting the scattered towels, the tipped-over water dish, the quiet hum of the machines, all background to the fragile pulse of life before him. He gathered the puppy into his arms, careful to cradle the small body without pressure, feeling the warmth return slowly as she nestled against him, trusting, almost immediately, in the protection he offered. Outside, lightning flashed, illuminating the room in stark, white light for a brief instant, and the puppy's ears twitched, her amber eyes widening slightly, reflecting a glimmer of hope she hadn't dared to feel before. Ryan adjusted the thin blanket around her, pressing it lightly to absorb the lingering chill, whispering again, "Hold on. We'll get through this together." Every breath they shared seemed to synchronize, the storm outside fading into the background as the fragile warmth between them grew, an unspoken bond forming in the quiet space. The hum of the clinic, once menacing and mechanical, now felt almost gentle, a backdrop to the miraculous persistence of life in the small, trembling body held against Ryan's chest. Minutes stretched, each second taut with tension, until a faint, encouraging whine escaped from the puppy, followed by a tentative nuzzle against Ryan's neck, a tiny heartbeat of reassurance that life, however fragile, was still determined to continue. He pressed a gentle kiss to the top of her head, feeling the soft fur damp against his lips, and whispered once more, "You've got this. Just a little longer." In that instant, the room seemed to shrink to the two of them. The storm, the clinic, the world outside melting into insignificance as a small miracle began to take root in the quietest, most unexpected way, leaving the question lingering in the air. Could this tiny fighter, barely clinging to life, survive to see a new day with the soldier who had chosen to believe in her against all odds? Ryan carefully carried the tiny German Shepherd to a small cot near the corner of the clinic, the fluorescent lights flickering softly above them. The puppy's shallow breaths rose and fell against his chest as he adjusted her position, ensuring warmth spread through her small body. Every inch of fur he touched seemed to hum with fragile life, and the scent of rain outside mingled with the antiseptic in a way that made the room feel both foreign and intimate at the same time. Ryan's eyes never left her face as he monitored each subtle movement, every flutter of an ear or twitch of a paw signaling a faint spark of resilience. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small towel, wrapping it gently around her to hold in the warmth, whispering words of calm assurance over and over, as if the sound of his voice alone could coax life into her. Outside, the storm continued its relentless drum, the wind rattling the clinic windows, but inside, the world contracted to a single point of focus, the bond forming between a human who had known loss and a creature who had known suffering. Minutes stretched, each one heavy with anticipation, until the puppy let out a soft, almost imperceptible whine, nudging Ryan with her tiny nose, a signal that she was still holding on. He smiled faintly, careful not to disturb her, and gently stroked her ears, feeling the muscles beneath the fur tense and relax in response. The room smelled faintly of wet fur and warmth, a contrast to the cold clinical scent, and the quiet hum of the medical equipment became a rhythm that seemed to echo the small heartbeats in the room. Ryan's thoughts drifted to the journey that had brought them here, to the mission overseas, the long nights in barracks, the camaraderie and discipline that had shaped him, and now the unexpected tenderness of this moment reminded him that patience and care could be just as heroic as courage in battle. He shifted slightly, ensuring the puppy's head rested comfortably on his arm, her eyes blinking slowly as if taking in the world for the first time with trust. The rain continued to tap against the glass, and every droplet sounded like a tiny drumbeat marking the passage of a crucial hour. Ryan murmured again, "Just breathe, you are not alone," and felt her respond with a barely perceptible wiggle, a motion that ignited a quiet surge of hope. Each second felt elongated, precious, a measure of their shared resilience, and the unspoken promise between them that they would endure this together. Outside the small window, the gray sky threatened further storms, but the warmth of a human hand, the gentle tone of a voice, and the fragile yet stubborn will to live in a small, trembling puppy began to weave a cocoon of comfort and possibility, leaving the room suspended between tension and the first quiet glimmers of miracle. The storm outside had begun to ease, leaving a quiet drizzle that tapped gently against the clinic windows, but inside the room, the tension remained, a delicate balance between hope and uncertainty. Sergeant Ryan Miller adjusted the small cot so that the German Shepherd puppy lay more comfortably against a folded towel, her tiny body curling into a loose ball, still damp from the rain and chilled to the bone. He could feel the faint rise and fall of her chest, a rhythm that seemed almost imperceptible yet full of promise. The fluorescent lights above cast soft shadows across the room, highlighting the gentle fur along her back and the faint tremors of movement that marked her survival. Ryan spoke softly, his voice calm and steady, threading reassurance into every word. "You are safe now, little one. Just rest and breathe." The puppy responded with a small nuzzle against his arm, a tentative gesture that conveyed trust and the beginnings of comfort. The air was thick with the mixed scents of rain, damp fur, and antiseptic, a combination that made the room feel both clinical and alive, each breath carrying the weight of fragile life. Ryan's hands moved with careful precision, checking the small limbs, ensuring warmth, adjusting the towel so that no part of her body was exposed to the lingering chill. He watched as her amber eyes fluttered closed, then opened again, reflecting the muted glow of the lights, and a spark of determination glimmered within them, a silent refusal to surrender. Every second stretched, the world outside fading to the hum of equipment and the soft, rhythmic sounds of life clinging on in the small space they shared. He shifted slightly, cradling her more securely against his chest, feeling the subtle warmth returning to her body, the faint pulse beneath his fingertips a signal that persistence and care were beginning to have their effect. The puppy twitched her ears, a small movement that brought a faint smile to Ryan's face, a signal that she recognized the security he provided. Outside, puddles shimmered under the weakening storm clouds, droplets sliding down the glass like tiny streams, a mirror of the fragile streams of life moving within the room. Ryan whispered again, his voice carrying the patience of someone who had endured long nights and endless challenges. "Hold on, you can do this." The tiny body responded with a soft whimper, a gentle shift closer to him, and the warmth of that contact spread through both of them, a wordless communication of hope, comfort, and the beginning of a bond that neither time nor hardship could sever. In that quiet room, against the backdrop of a storm passing into memory, the fragile resilience of life and the steadfast presence of someone willing to wait, to care, and to believe became a silent miracle, every heartbeat a testament to the power of persistence, trust, and gentle human touch, leaving the space suspended in a moment that promised recovery, growth, and the unfolding of something extraordinary. The first rays of dawn crept through the blinds, casting thin stripes of golden light across the clinic floor, illuminating the damp fur of the small German Shepherd puppy nestled against Sergeant Ryan Miller. Her chest rose and fell more steadily now, tiny whimpers fading into soft sighs. As warmth returned to her body, Ryan adjusted his hold slightly, feeling the subtle increase in her strength, the pulse beneath his fingertips a quiet affirmation that she was determined to survive. The storm outside had slowed to a gentle drizzle, each raindrop sliding down the windows with a soft, rhythmic patter that seemed to echo the tentative heartbeat of the little creature. Ryan's eyes, sharp and steady from years of service, scanned the room for anything that might hinder her recovery, noting the blankets and towels he had arranged, the hum of the medical equipment providing a steady, comforting backdrop. Every small movement from the puppy, a paw stretching, a soft nuzzle, a tentative shift closer to him, felt monumental, proof that life could persist in even the most fragile forms. He spoke softly, words carefully measured, a thread of calm reassurance woven into the air. "Keep going. You are safe here. We are together now." The amber eyes of the puppy followed him, brightening with each passing second, reflecting trust and an unspoken bond that had begun to form in these early hours. The room carried the faint scent of rain, wet fur, and antiseptic, a mixture that became almost sacred in its quiet significance, marking a place where care and patience could nurture what seemed nearly lost. Ryan's gloved hands moved with precision, adjusting the towel under her small body, cradling her head with tenderness, making certain no part of her was left exposed to the lingering chill. The puppy responded with soft, almost imperceptible movements, her ears flicking, a slight wiggle of her tail, and the subtle shifting of her paws signaling resilience. Ryan allowed himself a small exhale, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly, recognizing that each sign of life was a small victory, each heartbeat a testament to the quiet miracles that could emerge from persistence, warmth, and care. Outside, the clouds were thinning, pale morning lights spilling through the gaps, painting the room in soft hues that contrasted with the clinical brightness of the fluorescent lamps, and for a fleeting moment, the world outside seemed to pause, as if waiting for the fragile life within the room to fully awaken. Ryan continued to murmur reassurances, his voice low and steady, a rhythm that matched the slow but steady breaths of the puppy, creating a connection between them that transcended words. Every twitch, every blink, every sigh of the small body pressed against his chest reinforced the fragile promise of life, the unspoken commitment that neither would be alone in this quiet fight. The gentle motion of her body against him, the warmth gradually spreading through her limbs, and the trust reflected in her soft gaze together painted a picture of hope blossoming in the most delicate and profound way, leaving the room suspended in a quiet anticipation of the moments to come, where the smallest acts of care and attention might just lead to the first true signs of recovery. The morning light grew stronger, spilling across the clinic floor in warm, golden beams that reflected softly off the damp fur of the German Shepherd puppy resting against Sergeant Ryan Miller. Each breath she took was more confident, more deliberate, and Ryan could feel the subtle shifts in her body as she stretched slightly, testing the strength returning to her tiny limbs. The air was still tinged with the scent of rain and antiseptic, a mingling that somehow created a sense of calm amidst the remnants of the storm outside. Ryan adjusted the towel around her, tucking it gently to ensure she remained warm, his voice low and steady, threading reassurance into every word. "You are doing so well, little one. Just keep going," he murmured, and the puppy responded with a small, tentative nuzzle against his chest, a quiet affirmation of trust. Outside, the world had begun to wake, the soft hum of early traffic mingling with distant birdsong, but within the room, time seemed suspended, measured only by the fragile rise and fall of the puppy's chest. Ryan's eyes followed every movement, every flicker of her amber eyes, noting the slow strengthening of her tiny legs, the subtle wag of a tail that had not moved with intent for hours. The fluorescent lights above cast soft patterns on the walls, flickering occasionally, but the warmth radiating between them held the room in a delicate balance of hope and anticipation. Ryan spoke again, softly, encouragingly, his words a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the steadying heartbeat of the puppy, creating a connection that transcended speech. He gently lifted her head to adjust her position, feeling the small, warm weight shift into his hands, her paws flexing slightly, testing their strength, and he smiled faintly, heart lifting with each sign of recovery. The Faint patter of rain against the windows had slowed to a gentle drizzle, the occasional drop tracing streaks across the glass. And in that quiet, the smallest movements of life felt monumental. Ryan whispered again, his voice filled with quiet determination, "You are not alone. We will face this together." And the puppy responded with a tentative lick against his hand, a subtle gesture of acknowledgement and trust. The room seemed to hum with a gentle energy, the merging of patience, care, and resilience creating a cocoon around the two of them, isolating them from the outside world and allowing the fragile process of healing to unfold. Ryan adjusted the towel once more, ensuring the puppy's body was fully supported, and felt her shift closer, seeking warmth, safety, and presence. Each movement, each small breath, each soft whine became a signal of perseverance, a quiet triumph over the night that had threatened to end before it began. The puppy's amber eyes, though still soft with weariness, now held a glimmer of alertness, curiosity, and emerging trust, reflecting the bond solidifying in the space between them. In the stillness of that room, surrounded by the faint echoes of the storm that had passed and the gentle rhythms of morning, Sergeant Ryan Miller and the tiny German shepherd began a silent dance of recovery, each heartbeat, each breath, and each subtle movement a step toward the promise of a day filled with possibility, warmth, and the quiet miracles that arise from unwavering care and patience. The gentle warmth of morning continued to fill the clinic room as Sergeant Ryan Miller shifted the small German shepherd puppy onto his lap, careful to keep her snug beneath the towel that had become a makeshift blanket. Her tiny body relaxed gradually, each breath deeper, more measured, signaling a growing resilience that lifted a quiet weight from Ryan's shoulders. The subtle hum of the medical equipment provided a soft rhythm, echoing the tentative heartbeat of life within the fragile form he held. Outside, the drizzle had lessened, light reflecting off puddles in the parking lot, casting a gentle shimmer that flickered through the blinds, dappling the room with shifting patterns of light. Ryan's gloved hands moved with deliberate care, adjusting her position to ensure comfort, each motion gentle, precise, an unspoken conversation of trust and reassurance. He murmured softly, "We will get through this together," and the puppy responded with a faint nuzzle, a tiny act that carried immense weight, a quiet signal that she recognized him as a protector, a source of warmth and safety. The amber eyes that had once been dim with exhaustion now flickered with life, small sparks of alertness appearing as she lifted her head, ears twitching toward his voice. Every subtle movement became a point of focus, a milestone in the slow, painstaking process of recovery. Ryan leaned closer, feeling the tiny body tremble not from weakness, but from the effort of regaining strength, each motion a declaration that life was still present, still fighting. The scent of rain lingered, mingling with the warmth of her fur and the clinical cleanliness of the room, creating an atmosphere of both renewal and quiet vigilance. He reached out, brushing a soft hand along her back, feeling the taut muscles beneath the fur respond, flexing gently as if stretching for the first time. The puppy shifted slightly, curling closer to him, seeking comfort and presence, her trust in him deepening with each passing moment. Outside, the world was waking slowly, the gray clouds dispersing, sun glinting briefly on the wet asphalt. Yet within the room, time seemed to move in its own measured rhythm, marked only by the heartbeat of the puppy and the quiet, patient steadiness of Ryan. He whispered again, words steady, low, deliberate. "You are safe, and you are not alone." And the small creature responded with a faint sigh, eyes half closed, a sign of tentative comfort. The interplay of warmth, gentle pressure, and soft voice seemed to encourage small, almost imperceptible movements, a paw stretching, a tail flicking, ears perking slightly. Each one carried significance, a marker of progress, a proof that resilience could emerge from fragility. Ryan observed every detail, the soft amber glow in her eyes, the subtle rise and fall of her chest, the gradual relaxation of tension in her limbs, and he allowed himself a quiet smile, knowing that these small signs were the first real evidence of recovery. In the stillness, punctuated only by the soft whir of machines and the muted patter of the lingering drizzle, a silent bond strengthened between them, a shared understanding that they were facing this delicate struggle together, and that with patience, care, and steadfast presence, the first true milestones of life, trust, and connection were unfolding in the most extraordinary way. The soft hum of the clinic was punctuated only by the faint drip of water from the still damp roof outside, a gentle reminder that the storm had passed, but left its presence lingering in the air. Sergeant Ryan Miller kept the tiny German Shepherd puppy cradled against his chest, feeling the steady warmth return to her small body with each measured breath. Her eyes, now opened fully, glimmered with a mix of curiosity and cautious trust, following his every movement, ears twitching at the slightest sound of his voice. Ryan adjusted the towel around her, pressing it lightly to hold in the warmth while whispering words of calm reassurance. "It is going to be okay, just a little longer." Each soft word seemed to wrap around the puppy like a blanket, comforting, steady, a human heartbeat translating into trust. She shifted slightly, pushing her tiny nose into his jacket, her small paws flexing as if testing the strength returning to her muscles, a subtle declaration of life and persistence. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered briefly, casting soft shadows on the walls, and the faint scent of rain mixed with warmth and the antiseptic cleanliness of the room, creating a cocoon of safety around them. Ryan's hands moved carefully, adjusting her position to ensure no part of her body was exposed to the lingering chill, noting every subtle twitch, every micro-movement as an indicator of growing resilience. Outside, the gray sky brightened into the soft gold of morning, light streaming through the blinds and reflecting across the damp floor, highlighting the tiny, determined form in his arms. The puppy let out a soft whine, a barely audible sound, yet full of meaning, and Ryan responded with gentle strokes along her back, each motion deliberate, reassuring, affirming that she was not alone. Every subtle shift of her body, every flick of a paw, every flutter of her ears was a marker of progress, proof that life, fragile yet persistent, was holding on. The room felt suspended in a quiet tension, filled with small miracles in motion, the kind that required patience and gentle observation. Ryan's eyes met hers, the amber gaze reflecting understanding and a tentative hope, and he murmured again, "We will see this through together." Her tail twitched slightly, a sign that the bond between them was solidifying, trust growing stronger with every heartbeat. The gentle cadence of her breathing synchronized with the low, steady rhythm of his murmured words, a silent communication that transcended speech, uniting them in a shared focus on survival and care. The outside world, now calm and bright, contrasted with the delicate intensity of the room, yet within these walls, the smallest movements carried weight beyond measure, each breath and shift a step toward recovery. The puppy lifted her head, eyes glimmering with recognition, and nuzzled closer to him, a subtle affirmation that she understood the safety and warmth he provided, creating a quiet, powerful sense of connection that promised the first true milestones of healing and the beginning of an extraordinary bond between soldier and animal. The soft light of mid-morning filtered through the blinds, casting long, golden lines across the clinic floor, highlighting the small, determined form of the German Shepherd puppy nestled against Sergeant Ryan Miller. Her breathing had grown steady, rhythmic, and her tiny body, once frail and trembling, now carried the faint warmth of returning vitality. Ryan adjusted the towel around her, ensuring no part of her was left exposed to the lingering chill, his hands gentle, precise, and reassuring, every movement conveying patience and care. The puppy lifted her head slightly, amber eyes glimmering with a tentative alertness, ears twitching at the familiar sound of his voice, a sound that had become a beacon of safety in a world that had offered her only uncertainty. Ryan murmured softly, "You are safe here, and we will get through this together," his words threading a calm rhythm through the quiet room. She responded with a soft nuzzle against his chest, the subtle movement a confirmation of trust forming between them. The hum of the medical equipment provided a comforting background, punctuated by the occasional drip of water from the still damp roof outside, and each tiny sound seemed to emphasize the delicate intensity of the moment. Outside, the storm had faded entirely, leaving behind a world washed clean and glimmering with the first rays of sunlight bouncing off puddles. But inside, The room felt suspended in time, marked only by the fragile pulse of life held against Ryan's chest. He observed each twitch, each shift, each delicate movement of her paws and limbs as indicators of growth and persistence, proof that the smallest signs of resilience could carry immense significance. The warmth spreading through her body reflected the trust she had begun to place in him, a trust mirrored in the gentle focus of his hazel eyes as he continued to cradle her. Her soft whines had become whispers of comfort, subtle communications that spoke volumes about her recognition of safety and care. Ryan's hand trailed lightly across her back, feeling muscles gradually flex and relax with renewed strength, and the puppy shifted closer, pressing her head against his chest in a wordless acknowledgement of the bond solidifying between them. The faint golden light accentuated the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the flutter of her ears, and the tentative wag of her tail, all signs that life, once fragile, was now asserting itself with a quiet determination. The mixture of the clinic's antiseptic scent, the lingering freshness of rain, and the warmth of her fur created an atmosphere of healing, connection, and possibility, a delicate balance maintained by patient attention and unwavering presence. Ryan whispered once more, voice low and steady, "You are not alone." And the puppy responded with a gentle shift, a soft sigh, and a tiny wag of her tail, gestures that conveyed understanding and the earliest forms of joy. In that still room, illuminated by the morning sun and filled with quiet reassurance, the two of them existed in a fragile, perfect equilibrium, a space where trust, care, and the smallest acts of persistence were weaving the first threads of a lasting bond, and the promise of a day filled with warmth, life, and the quiet miracles that come from unwavering dedication hung palpably in the air, leaving the room suspended in anticipation of the recovery and connection yet to fully unfold. Ryan felt a subtle shift beneath his hands as the German Shepherd puppy moved with more purpose, her tiny legs flexing with the strength that had been building hour by hour. The soft golden light streaming through the blinds caught in her amber eyes, reflecting a spark of awareness that had been absent just moments before. He adjusted the towel, ensuring warmth stayed evenly distributed, and whispered gently, "You are stronger than you think," his voice calm, steady, a thread of reassurance weaving through the quiet room. The hum of the medical equipment and the distant patter of the receding rain created a rhythmic backdrop, punctuating each tiny motion of her body with significance. The puppy shifted again, lifting her head and nuzzling closer to him, a small, deliberate movement that signaled her growing confidence in the safety of his presence. Ryan observed every twitch of her ears, every subtle stretch of her paws, noting the small victories as they unfolded. Outside, the sky had cleared further, the first true hints of sunlight bathing the clinic in warmth that contrasted with the sterile chill of the room. Yet inside, the focus remained on the fragile life in his hands. He murmured again, words soft and deliberate, "We are together now, and you are safe," feeling the tiny weight of her body relax against his chest, a tangible sign of trust solidifying. The puppy's tail flicked lightly, a subtle rhythm of reassurance, and her amber eyes followed his every gesture with increasing alertness. Ryan could feel the resilience building beneath her fur, the small but deliberate stretches of her limbs as she tested newfound strength, each movement a small miracle in motion. The warmth of the morning sunlight combined with the care he offered, wrapping the room in a quiet glow that emphasized each delicate shift, each breath, and each heartbeat. The gentle nuzzle of her nose against his jacket and the faint soft sighs she released created a symphony of quiet communication, a dialogue of trust and patience. Ryan allowed himself a small smile, observing how her eyes tracked him, bright with curiosity and cautious optimism, and he stroked her ears softly, feeling the subtle flex of muscles returning to life. The world outside moved on with the day, but within this small, quiet space, time seemed to slow, measured only by the increasing steadiness of her breathing and the gentle beat of life returning to her body. Each motion, each responsive glance, each tiny wag of the tail became a milestone, a testament to perseverance and the beginnings of recovery. The room was filled with a profound quiet, a space where care, patience, and attention could work miracles, where the warmth of human presence and the steadfastness of trust intertwined to create a fragile yet undeniable promise of healing. Ryan whispered once more, voice low and steady, "Keep going. You are safe." And the puppy, in response, pressed a little closer, a movement filled with tentative strength and acknowledgement, signaling that the first true steps toward life and connection had begun to take hold. The room was bathed in a gentle, golden glow as sunlight spilled fully through the blinds, illuminating the clinic floor and warming the small German shepherd puppy resting against Sergeant Ryan Miller. Each breath she took was steadier now, chest rising and falling with a rhythm that mirrored the quiet hum of life returning to her fragile body. Ryan adjusted the towel around her, tucking it snugly to retain the heat, his hands moving with careful, deliberate precision, a tactile reassurance that matched the soft cadence of his whispered words. "You are safe, and you are doing wonderfully," he murmured, letting each syllable carry a steady rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the faint pulse beneath his fingertips. The puppy stirred slightly, pushing her tiny nose into the warmth of his jacket, a small, deliberate motion that conveyed trust and recognition, a signal that the bond between them was deepening with every heartbeat. Outside, the drizzle had ended entirely, leaving behind glistening puddles that reflected the clear, brightening sky, while inside, the room held a suspended quiet, each micro-movement amplified in significance. The amber eyes of the puppy tracked his every gesture, blinking slowly, ears flicking attentively, and Ryan noted with quiet satisfaction the subtle strength returning to her legs and paws as she flexed gently. He stroked her soft, damp fur, feeling the muscles beneath respond with small, tentative flexes, each one a marker of resilience and recovery. The air was rich with the mingling sense of rain, warmth, and antiseptic, creating a cocoon of life and safety that seemed to hold the room in a delicate balance. Every breath, every tiny nuzzle reinforcing the progress she had made. Ryan murmured again, voice low and steady, "We are together, and you are safe here." And the puppy responded with a faint whine that had softened into a gentle sigh, pressing closer in a gesture of comfort and acknowledgement. Her tiny tail twitched, tentative yet purposeful, a subtle signal that life, once fragile and uncertain, was asserting itself with increasing confidence. The warmth of the sunlight combined with the quiet strength of his presence to create a rhythm of healing, each second marked by subtle movements, a paw stretching, a shift of her weight, the rise and fall of her chest. Ryan allowed his gaze to linger, observing the glimmer of awareness in her eyes, the small, confident motions that spoke volumes of determination and trust, and he smiled faintly, letting the silent connection between them grow without words. The clinic, once cold and clinical, felt alive with the quiet miracle of progress, every small twitch, sigh, and glance a step toward vitality. The puppy lifted her head fully, ears alert, eyes bright with cautious curiosity, and nestled closer into Ryan's chest, a gentle acknowledgement of security, warmth, and the human care that had become a lifeline. In the soft, golden light of the morning, every breath and heartbeat marked a tangible triumph over fragility, a quiet testament to persistence, trust, and the beginnings of a bond that promised life, comfort, and hope beyond the storm that had passed, leaving the room filled with an unspoken anticipation of the recovery and connection yet to fully unfold. The afternoon sunlight had fully entered the clinic, filling the room with warmth that seemed to seep into every corner, casting long, gentle shadows that danced along the floor as Sergeant Ryan Miller adjusted the small German shepherd puppy in his arms. Her breathing had become steady and confident, each rise and fall of her chest carrying a quiet promise that life was reclaiming its hold. She stretched slightly, her tiny legs flexing with new strength, and nuzzled against Ryan's chest, a soft, deliberate movement that spoke of trust and recognition. The subtle hum of the medical equipment, once a background of clinical necessity, now seemed a comforting rhythm, matching the gentle pulse of her recovering heartbeat. Ryan's gloved hands moved carefully, adjusting the towel to maintain warmth, each touch conveying patience and quiet reassurance. He whispered softly, "We are doing this together, and you are safe." his voice a steady anchor in a space that had once been dominated by uncertainty. The puppy's ears flicked in response, and her amber eyes followed his every movement with a growing alertness, reflecting a mix of curiosity and emerging confidence. Outside, the world moved with the lazy pace of a calm afternoon, sunlight glinting off puddles and reflecting through the window onto the clinic floor, yet inside, the focus remained tightly on the fragile form in his hands. Each small nuzzle, each tentative paw movement, each soft sigh from the puppy became a marker of resilience, a demonstration of how fragile life could slowly assert itself through persistence, care, and trust. Ryan observed every detail, the way her tiny chest rose steadily, the subtle flex of her muscles, and the flick of her tail, understanding that each sign was a milestone, proof that the bond between them was strengthening in ways beyond words. The warmth of sunlight combined with the human presence and quiet attention to create a cocoon of security around them, a space where fragile life could flourish. The puppy lifted her head, ears pricking, eyes brightening with awareness, and pressed closer to him, a motion that carried a profound sense of acknowledgement and emerging confidence. Ryan allowed a small, encouraging smile, watching as subtle movements of the puppy, stretching paws, shifting weight, soft nuzzles, signaled both recognition and the tentative beginnings of playful energy returning. The room was filled with a delicate tension, a mixture of relief and cautious anticipation, where every subtle motion, every heartbeat, and every soft breath became a testament to the quiet miracles that emerge when trust, care, and patience converge. Ryan's voice remained low, steady, and gentle, whispering words of reassurance that threaded through the room like a soft, binding melody, anchoring the puppy's confidence as she nestled closer. The golden light highlighted the soft fur along her back, the delicate rise and fall of her chest, and the tentative wag of her tail, signaling that she had begun to reclaim strength, hope, and a sense of safety. In that room, suspended in warmth, light, and quiet attention, the beginnings of a lasting bond had taken hold, a connection built on trust, patience, and the unspoken understanding that together, they could face whatever came next, and the promise of further recovery, playful energy, and companionship shimmered in the calm air around them. The soft glow of late afternoon filtered through the clinic blinds, casting warm stripes across the floor where Sergeant Ryan Miller held the small German shepherd puppy in his arms. Each breath she drew was steady and deliberate now, the fragile rhythm that had once seemed tenuous blossoming into a confident, deliberate pulse that spoke of resilience and determination. Ryan adjusted the towel gently, pressing it lightly against her small body to retain the warmth, and whispered softly, "You are safe, and we will face each day together," the words carrying a quiet reassurance that wrapped around them both like a comforting cloak. The puppy lifted her head slightly, amber eyes glimmering with curiosity and recognition, and pressed closer against his chest, a deliberate motion of trust and acknowledgement. The hum of the medical equipment filled the room, steady and reliable, providing a comforting rhythm that echoed the return of life and strength to the tiny creature in his care. Outside, the world moved lazily with the soft glow of the waning sun reflecting off puddles, yet inside the room, time seemed measured only by the steady beat of her heart and the soft cadence of Ryan's voice. He stroked her back gently, feeling the flex of returning strength beneath her soft fur, and observed every subtle movement, the slight lift of a paw, the flick of a tail, the gentle shift of her weight. Each motion was a milestone, a quiet testament to resilience, persistence, and the bond that had begun to form in these fragile, crucial hours. Ryan spoke again, low and steady, threading calm assurance through the quiet room. "Keep going. You are safe here." And the puppy responded with a soft nuzzle against his chest, a tender sign of understanding and trust. Her small ears twitched, tail flicking slightly, and her eyes brightened with alertness, reflecting a growing confidence and an emerging awareness of the safety surrounding her. The mixture of sunlight, warmth, and human presence created a cocoon in which life could reclaim its strength, where patience, care, and gentle attention fostered the quiet miracles unfolding in subtle, profound ways. Ryan's gaze lingered on her amber eyes, noting the faint glimmer of playfulness, the careful movements that marked recovery, and the soft, rhythmic breathing that had once been uncertain but now sang with quiet vitality. Each small sigh, each tentative nuzzle, each micro-shift of her tiny body against his chest became a testament to the growing connection between them, a silent acknowledgement that trust, warmth, and steady care had created a sanctuary for life to thrive. In the room, suspended between fading storm and waning day, the bond between soldier and puppy had deepened into something unspoken yet profoundly felt, a fragile, resilient trust that carried the promise of full recovery, enduring companionship, and the quiet, undeniable presence of a miracle nurtured through patience, devotion, and unwavering care. The evening sunlight stretched across the clinic floor, casting long, gentle beams that warmed the small German shepherd puppy nestled comfortably in Sergeant Ryan Miller's arms. Her breathing had grown even steadier, rhythmic and calm, each rise and fall of her chest a quiet testament to her resilience and the care that had been given without pause. Ryan adjusted the towel once more, pressing it lightly against her small body to maintain warmth, and whispered softly, "You have come so far, little one," his words carrying a quiet authority and reassurance that wrapped around the room like a protective shield. The puppy lifted her head slightly, amber eyes reflecting the soft light and focusing on him with a mix of trust and emerging curiosity. She nuzzled against his chest, a deliberate motion that signaled understanding and acknowledgement of the safety he provided, and her tiny tail flicked slowly, the movement subtle but filled with significance. Outside, the final rays of the sun glimmered off puddles and wet streets, casting a warm, reflective glow that seeped through the blinds, blending with the soft antiseptic scent and warmth of the room to create an atmosphere of calm and quiet triumph. Ryan's hands moved with gentle precision, feeling the subtle flex of her returning strength beneath the soft fur, noting every twitch, stretch, and micro-movement as a signal of progress, each one a small victory in the delicate dance of recovery. He murmured again, low and steady, "You are safe, and we will face every day together," and the puppy responded with a small, deliberate nuzzle, pressing closer, a silent affirmation of trust, comfort, and the bond now fully taking root between them. The hum of the medical equipment provided a steady, almost musical background, marking the passage of time in a room suspended between quiet observation and the gentle rhythm of life returning. Her amber eyes glimmered brighter, filled with tentative curiosity and alertness, as she explored the immediate space with tiny, careful movements, stretching her paws, lifting her head, and shifting closer to Ryan's chest, each motion demonstrating the growing confidence and awareness that had taken root in recent hours. The soft warmth of sunlight combined with the tactile comfort of his presence to create a cocoon in which resilience flourished, and every soft sigh, every subtle wag of her tail, every gentle nuzzle became a milestone marking the bond between soldier and animal. Ryan allowed a small, contented smile, noting the spark of playful energy emerging in her movements, the steady beat of life affirming that care, patience, and unwavering presence had nurtured something extraordinary in this small, fragile creature. In the room, bathed in golden light, filled with the scent of warmth, the lingering freshness of rain, and the gentle rhythm of human care, a silent understanding settled between them, a quiet testament to perseverance, trust, and the transformative power of unwavering attention. Each movement, each breath, and each heartbeat now carried not just survival, but the promise of companionship, recovery, and the enduring magic of a bond forged in patience, hope, and quiet miracles, leaving the room suspended in a peaceful glow that hinted at the beginning of a shared journey far beyond the struggles of the day.